But you have to. But all say online, come in look, you go and talk to say about the.
You still go summit. Pastor, you want to be on a summit in Africa.
Welcome everyone to our Math Skills 3850 Workshop 2025. We are going to begin with prayer. Let us pray. Dear God, we thank you for your continued grace and mercy as we partake in another session of workshop for teachers across Jamaica. Lord, we pray that everything that is said today will benefit the teachers of mathematics and, of course, the students who are going to sit the exam for June 2026. Dear Father, we ask that we will answer questions that are out there and that we'll be able to put some light on some areas as we engage the students. Let everything work well today, Father. All the digital platform that we are on, all the teachers that are engaged, let everyone listen and let this be something that helps the system. And remember, as educators, we are here to make the lives of those we engage better. So Father, we put everything in your hand and we pray for an excellent session today. In your holy and precious name we pray. Amen.
Good day, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the City and Guilds 2025 to 2026 workshop series. I would like to thank all the teachers, heads of department, principals, and anyone else who has taken the time out to join us today. We want to extend further thanks for all the support and commitment you have given to us throughout the years. It is an honor and privilege to provide certification for the young people of Jamaica and the Caribbean. We want to thank the Ministry of Education for giving us this opportunity to serve the youth of Jamaica, as well as the stakeholders across the Caribbean. As we look ahead to the upcoming school year, we want to make this year all about growth and how we can better serve the youth of the Caribbean. Here at City and Guilds, we are all about preparing our young people for the working world and the next stages of life. I would now like to share a few slides about City and Guilds and the work that we have done across the region and over the years. City and Guilds is an international examination body based in the UK and part of the City and Guilds International Group. As a group, they provide a wide range of products and services, including work-relevant qualifications for training, assessment, and learning support materials. This is our motto. The City and Guilds of London Institute is committed to developing the skills of people and organizations to secure their personal and economic growth and prosperity. Our exams are competence-based, and what we mean by this is that the competence is the ability to perform the task or job successfully using a combination of knowledge, skills, and behavior, and is measured against a standard. The ability can be acquired through experience and/or training and potentially demonstrated by the qualifications. Here we can look at City and Guilds at a glance. Established 147 years ago in 1878, we have over 500 qualifications covering almost every major industrial sector. We have certified over 30 million learners, and we've been operating in over 83 countries across the globe. And here we have the 5 key strengths of City and Guilds. Progression. Our qualifications offer a clear progression path for learners. We offer qualifications from entry level up to level 7. Learners can use City and Guilds to take them from entry level up to the highest standards of professional achievement. Secondly, our portability. Our qualifications act as a benchmark for skills globally and are widely recognized and well respected, which means wherever life finds our learners, they can use their City and Guilds certification to get work. Thirdly, aspirations. Each learner has hopes and dreams for his or her career. City and Guilds qualifications give those people the skills that will equip them to reach their goals, whether that's getting a job, moving further into training, or starting or growing their own business. Fourthly, recognition. Our certifications are recognized globally, from educational institutions to professional bodies across a wide section of industries. Our certifications can really open doors. And lastly, employability. Because they're deployed with the help of industry experts and are workplace relevant, City and Guilds qualifications equip people for doing a real job, benefiting them and their employers. As we go on, I would like to focus more on our region. In Jamaica, the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information engaged us in 2019 under a 10-year contract to deliver qualifications in math, English, customer service, engineering, and the Skills Proficiency Awards. All of these certifications are delivered across the high schools in the country. Also in Jamaica, I would like to mention our partnership with HEART, where we have delivered our Skills Proficiency Awards across 16 occupational pathways. And in that 3-year period, we have certified over 9,000 HEART learners. Our certificate in employability skills have also been delivered through HEART in the LIFT program since 2023. And since 2019, our qualifications in math and English skills have been offered to all students enrolled in HEART academies. And moving to the wider region, we have engagement with the Ministries of Education and Departments of Education in the following territories: Barbados, Bermuda, the Bahamas, the British Virgin Islands, and the Cayman Islands. But it's not only governments or government institutions that we deal with. We have several private training providers across the region. In Trinidad, in Guyana, in Antigua, and the list goes on. Our partners across the Caribbean are in many different institutions. They're ranging from high schools, ministries, colleges, tertiary institutions, vocational and technical institutions in several countries. We can go through the list here. We have our clients in Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, Bermuda, the Bahamas, the Cayman Islands, Guyana, the British Virgin Islands, Antigua, Grenada, and of course, Jamaica. And now we move on to the big picture. We have issued over 240,000 certificates in the last 15 years. And here are the average pass rates for math and English in that period. As you can see, in 2025, we maintained the average for math, and we had a 1% increase in English, and an overall 1% increase for both math and English. And speaking of math and English, I would like to go into more detail about the certifications. There are 3 stages within both the math skills and English skills qualification, with stage 3 being the highest and mapping closest to CSEC. At each stage is a freestanding single subject with its own certification. With the math skills, it's assessed by a multiple choice paper marked in London. With English skills, there are 2 components to this qualification: speaking and listening, and reading and writing. The written paper is marked in London, and the speaking and listening is an oral examination assessed internally. You can get a certificate of unit credit by completing each of these sections. But to complete both, you'll get the overarching certificate in English skills. And moving on from math and English, we have the Skills Proficiency Awards. We have designed the Skills Proficiency Awards to provide a broad introduction to essential practical skills for those doing training or those that are employed in those areas of work. The assessment is done by a practical task and oral questions, along with an evidence of work by a portfolio. The City and Guilds Quality Assurance Oversight ensures that persons who fulfill this qualification are of the highest standard. Last year, in the school year 24-25, we registered over 5,000 students, and they completed it with a certification rate of 70%. And I would like to stress, there's no written examination. And here are the 12 occupational pathways under the Skills Proficiency Awards: carpentry, electrical installation, welding, fabrication and pipeworks, IT for office application, masonry, food and beverage preparation, plumbing, motorcycle repair, basic motor vehicle engineering, and painting and decoration. And now, I would like to move on to our customer service. Our customer service qualification is offered at 2 levels. Level 1, which is the certificate, and Level 2, which is the diploma. It is important to note that the qualification sits on the British Qualification Framework accredited by Ofqual, and it is globally recognized. Last year, just over 7,000 students were registered for the June 2025 sitting, achieving a pass rate of 56%. This shows that we still have a lot of work to do. And with that work to be done, I would like to highlight the importance of our customer service exams. As a global leader in skills development, City and Guilds works with governments, employers, colleges, and training providers to deliver workplace relevant qualifications. Certification and assessment as well across a variety of sectors, meeting the dynamic needs of today's workplace. This qualification allows for employment opportunities in several industries, both locally and internationally. And these are some industries, just to name a few: the tourism and hotel industry, banking, business process outsourcing or call centers, healthcare, insurance, and general client representation. Everyone would need customer service. And finally, our engineering. This qualification will be offered through the sixth form pathway. This curriculum is delivered over a 2-year period with assessment by written and practical exams, and is ranked as a high order STEM program of study. The certification is available from level 1 in participating schools. And upon completion of level 3, this leads to a designation of engineering technician, which facilitates the post-nominal letters Eng Tech. And as you can see here, that designation of engineering technician will put you at level 3 on the ladder for engineering. With this, you can get jobs as a technician, and it would give you professional status. I would like to highlight the recognition of our certifications. With the support of the ministry here in Jamaica, we have achieved the following formal endorsements from the Jamaica Constabulary Force, the Jamaica Defense Force, the Ministry of the Public Services, Jamaica Employers Federation, the University Council of Jamaica, along with 20 different tertiary institutions in the country. As we move on, all successful candidates for Math, English, Customer Service, and the Skills Proficiency Awards will receive a paper certificate, but along with that paper certificate, they will receive digital badges for the June 2026 sitting. What's a digital badge? A digital badge is an electronic version of your certification, which you can attach to your email signature, or you can show anybody that you like. Students must have a professional email address in order to receive a digital badge. And of course, if there's any other feedback that you'd like to give us, whether it's questions, concerns, or any suggestions, or if you just want to reach out to us, you can contact us by the following means. Our telephone numbers are here on the screen. The WhatsApp lines are on the screen as well as our address and email addresses. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Special good morning to Mrs. Duncanson and the City and Guilds family. It's always a joy to work with you and to look forward to our annual training seminars for our teachers. Let me greet our teachers and exam coordinators in the room. Hi! From the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information, you know we love you. You know we appreciate you. Look at what you have done. We are celebrating you because of the performance of our students in the last sitting of City and Guilds. Yes, our TVET teachers experienced 70% success rate at the Skills Proficiency Award. Our language teachers, 70% success. A matter of fact, 75% of the students were successful in their English skills exams. In math,
Excuse me, good morning.
Still a little low, but you
We're
saw
not
what happened
hearing
to
from you, Miss
right?
Bird.
The math is low, so we do have a math challenge in Jamaica. So I'm not going to blame you guys for that. And of course, for the customer service, we also had a 56% success rate. And this year, for the first time, we asked teachers to give up their summer to work with some students, 333 of them, in the employability skills that we are trying to introduce to enrich the suite of support that our children can leave our education system with. And all 333 students were successful, were certified in employability skills. That's the job, colleagues. Congratulations. The Ministry of Education is better for your work, and our children are better for your work. Today, they can move into sixth form. Today, they can move into university. Today, they can move into the tertiary institutions to include our teachers' colleges. Yes, the Ministry of Education has given the policy directive for our teachers' colleges to accept City and Guild Stage 3 for English skills and mathematics. Colleagues, can you imagine that? We are increasing access to tertiary education for our young people. And it is the work that we do with City and Guilds that is enabling that. We as teachers, you know I'm a teacher, right? We know that our children are different. And so it is the responsibility of the education system to provide the system for that. So CSEC is one, City and Guilds is another, NCTVET is another, CBQ is another. That's the richness that we bring to our students so we can tap into their differences with the thrust for equity and equal opportunity for learning. And our children are maximizing because you are making yourselves available for training and development. So colleagues, with that background, I welcome you to this series of workshops with City and Guilds, where we are empowering you further to lift your standard of excellence in the education system. So I encourage you to maximize on this series this year. This is a 2025 series. I know the fact that you have turned up is a demonstration of your interest to grow as an individual and to ensure the success of your students. Thank you, and I wish you all the best as you make use of this learning activity. This year, City and Guilds, I want the ministry would like to acknowledge the work that you continue to do. You have expanded your suite of support for the teachers. Yes, the tutors guide for the TVET teachers. Oh my God. City and Guilds, we are happy. So our technical teachers are now being supported this year in ensuring that they have support in the tutors guide to understand the skill proficiency award in a more clinical way, and so they are competent to deliver it in the way that will ensure the students will be successful. I encourage you colleagues, my TVET teachers, when you are in the room, you may not be here today when you are listening to this broadcast, but I know they will be a part of the series of training, and I want to make a special plug. Maximize on this training opportunity. It is our commitment to our learners that every child in Jamaica should exit the education system with training in a skill area and certification. And we do that through the NCTVET, through the CBQ, and through City and Guilds Skills Proficiency Award. Colleagues, we are just basking in the many opportunities available for our young people. But it's only because of you they can tap into this. Again, teachers, I thank you. I thank you for all that you continue to do. City and Guilds, I thank you for building out the tutors guides this year, and I know you will continue to develop other suites of materials for our teachers to grow. I want all our teachers to commit to the training and certification that City and Guilds offers through their Quality Academy. I know that that is available and it's there for you to grow. We will give recognition to your engagement in these training sessions through our Jamaica Teaching Council to ensure that your certification, your training is recognized as part of your empowerment trust and will become a part of your PMAS or your performance appraisal, giving recognition to your growth opportunities and how well you have done at that. So ladies and gentlemen, again, I welcome you to the 2025 series of training being convened by City and Guilds Jamaica. We are blessed to have them on board because this is a thrust for equity and access and equal opportunity of learning for our boys and girls. Colleagues, this is a job. I know when you see your students out there, what it does for you, the feeling you get. And I too share in that because we are all on one accord. Congratulations, City and Guilds. Well done to our teachers and to our principals who gave you the permission to be out today to be a part of this empowerment session. I look forward to the outcomes. I want to see those scores I gave in the beginning of the math scores going up. I want to see the language, the English skills going up or the language arts going up. I want to see the TVET going up. I want to see customer service going up. And of course, we are going to tell you more later on about how we are going to include the employability skills component as an option that the students will pursue later on in this year and beyond. We're looking forward, colleagues. Again, welcome and congratulations. May God continue to bless you as we continue to grow Jamaica, land we love. God bless you. Welcome.
Welcome to the City and Guilds 2025 Math Skills 3850 workshop. Today we'll be looking at City and Guilds Math and pretty much taking a deeper dive in the Chief Examiner's report to prepare our educators to engage the students for the June 2026 exam. Let us hear who is on the panel with me today. And we'll start over there. Go ahead.
Alrighty. Thank you. Good morning. I'm Denise McGowan, a teacher of mathematics at Tarrant High School.
Good morning. My name is Tariq Parnell. I'm also a math educator at Tarrant High School.
Good day. I am Mrs. Dominique Dixon Parnell, also a math educator at Tarrant High School.
So there you have it. We have 3 educators here with us discussing City and Guilds Math, and we hope we will provide you guys, you teachers, and of course our learners out there with some key pointers as the new school academic year begins. So just to touch some things about City and Guilds, you know City and Guilds have been about for over 140 years, and they continue to work with people, organizations and economies to help identify and develop skills they need to thrive in an ever-changing world. They understand the life-changing link between skill development, social mobility, prosperity and success. Now, City and Guilds continue to build competencies to support better prospects for people, organization, and of course the wider society. So we're not just engaging students for an exam, we're preparing them for life. They create flexible learning pathways that support lifelong employability because they believe that people deserve the opportunity to retrain and relearn any stage in their life, allowing individuals to gain skills at any stage, regardless of their starting point. So those are just a few things we want to make sure you understand the function and purpose of City and Guilds. Now, City and Guilds, the standards at City and Guilds, we want to talk about the standards. City and Guilds is mapped to the National Standard Curriculum, which you commonly know as the NSC. So we know our students prepare or are engaged with curriculum from 7 to 9, the NSC, and definitely it prepares them to sit the City and Guilds exam. Now it is also comparable to the CSEC curriculum, which is our regional exam, and we all know City and Guilds is not regional, it's global. So you can use this anywhere in the world. City and Guilds can provide building block for those students who plan to enter tertiary institutions. Now, a lot of students are not aware of the use of the City and Guilds exam to enter into several universities or tertiary institutions. Now, let's just give them a few. So we have UWI, we have UTech, we have JCF, we have Jamaica Defense Force. We have teachers' colleges that accept City and Guilds. And of course, we don't want to discredit anything, but if you are planning on doing extensive study in mathematics, yes, the regional exam is still there. But there's so many unique career choices that is available to our learners now. Not like when you and I were growing up, where you either been a lawyer, doctor, or Indian Eye Chief. No, there are so many other things that we can do now. So we want everyone to understand that City and Guilds have a stage approach. We have stages 1, 2, and 3. And you don't have to complete the 2 previous stages to enter into the 3rd. However, there's a way to engage our learners with the stages to ensure that they maximize getting the best from the City and Guilds offering. All right, so we have some of the things that we want to look at, and teachers need to understand that the diagnostic testing. This year we did the diagnostic when? We did it in
March.
In March.
as well as in an earlier one in like October, November.
Okay. All right. So you are aware that the diagnostic testing allows the educators to pretty much know where the students should be placed, what stage best fits them. Now, I would love for this year that we are more deliberate in how we engage the learners. So if you realize that the students did the diagnostic and they got between 0 to 15 correct out of the 30, we know where they should be placed. 15 to 20, is it 24, I think?
I think so.
You know where they should be placed. So you know that stage 2 would be best for them. However, there is a little leniency where if the child gets 20 to 24, you can make the recommendation. Because you know, exam sitting, several things can happen. Students can not be feeling so well, scared of exam. And you, the teachers, have that autonomy to recommend the child for stage 3 if you see so fit. All right, so candidates do not have to progress, which we said this from each stage. They are freestanding qualifications. Now, we want to take a little look at the stage 1. The unit stage 1 students, they are engaged with 8 units. The units are number, measurement and standard units, pictograms, tables, charts and graphs, that's unit 3. Then we have shape and space, operations on whole numbers, less than 10,000. Now my issue is sometimes the teachers don't read through the units correctly. And we have people engaging the stage 1 students with some massive numbers, stressing out the children. What are some of the things that you would say as an educator? We're sharing with educators out there that when you're engaging students with any curriculum, what are some key things that we'd want them to pay attention to?
Okay, so one of the key things, it's very important for any educator to ensure that they go through either the curriculum or the handbook. The good thing about City and Guilds is that they are very specific. So they tell you exactly what the students should be learning. As you stated before, it tells you that the numbers should be less than 10,000. Right? So they should ensure that they go through their examples that are there as to the type of questions that you can give to the students. So it's important for us as educators to read through these handbooks and curriculums in order to ensure that we're preparing the students in the best way possible.
Awesome. Couldn't have said it better myself. Familiarize yourself with the curriculum that you're using to engage the students. Also, within the same guide, you have the number of questions that each unit will give, with the number of questions that you will find on the question paper. So we are aware that all 3 stages is a multiple choice exam and they have 60 questions. Now when you look at the curriculum number, 12%, 12 items, 12 questions, which is 20% of the paper. Therefore, you have to be deliberate as a teacher, as an educator, as a facilitator, to ensure that the students understand the concepts that are under the number unit. Okay? Great. And then you look through all of it. You also are to be fully aware of how many correct questions a child needs to get in order to achieve a pass, a merit, or a distinction. So just to remind you, if you're doing stage 1, you must get at least 27 correct items all the way up to 34 to give you a pass. 35 to 42 will give you a merit. And anywhere in excess of 43 correct answers will give you a distinction. These are things you want to share with your learners at the beginning of the school year. Why? It gives them a goal. It gives them perspective. It tells them what to aim for. Because during the course of the year, you must be giving them some practice papers. And they must know where they fall. If they get less than 27, they're not passing the exam. So those are things you want to use to gear your students in preparing well for the exam in June. When we look at stage 2, you have 8 units in stage 1. In stage 2, you have 13 units. And the same thing applied. As Dominic stated, City and Guilds booklet, guide, curriculum provides you with all the topics, all the units, and the number of questions each unit will be allotted to, and the percentage of the paper that will have to do with place value and all the other things. Same thing here. There's a little variation in how you achieve a pass. 25 to 32, pass in stage 2. 33 to 41, a merit in stage 2. And anything in excess of 42 correct answers at the stage 2 will award you a distinction. And as I said, we're just touching some things that I know you know already, educators, but we want to just, you know, it's a new school year. Let us just give them a little bit more to go with, you know, pep them up. So in stage 3, you have 12 units that you'd have to engage them with. As you rightfully said, City and Guilds is quite specific. So if a child is engaging with stage 1 curriculum, should we let them do stage 2 exam? Why we can't?
Because, as you said, it's very specific.
Okay.
So the lesson plans leading up to the exam are tailored to the exam for that stage. If we're going to move them from stage 1 to stage 2, we cannot expect them to perform adequately.
Excellent.
And what we want, we don't want to pull our students down. We're aiming to lift them up.
Love it. So you heard what Tariq said. We're lifting up our students. It is not recommended that you engage a child with a stage 1 curriculum and then send them to do a stage 2. And there is also another misconception out there that if the child is in the CSEC class, it's simple and easy to get them to do the stage 1, 2, or 3 exam. I want to kill that lie. Because although there are commonality with all three, with the CSEC exam curriculum and all stages, there are some things that are deliberately done at the City and Guilds level that I would want you to pay attention to, or that I'd want the educator to pay attention to when they engage the students. So it's not that they can't be in the CSEC class and still do the stage 3, because they can. But it means that the facilitator will have to be deliberate in looking at the topics in the City and Guilds and making sure that there is discrete and explicit emphasis placed on some things. For instance, CSEC doesn't require them to read the thermometer, do they?
No, it doesn't.
No. But it is a requirement with the stage 3 curriculum. So if the child is just sitting in the CSEC class, those items that cater to that part of the curriculum, they probably won't do well. We don't want to put our children in an exam with a disadvantage. So if you are having them, I would prefer you not have them in the CSEC class. But if you do, please engage yourself with the stage 3 curriculum and do your due diligence in ensuring that all the concepts that they ought to be engaged with is being done. So just to let you know, if you want to pass the stage 3, you have to get at least 27 correct answers, up to 34. From 35 to 42, you would have received a merit, and 43 to 60, you would have received a distinction at the stage 3. So here we are now. We are going to look at, which I've done this before, but I'm just going to refresh your mind, how the stage 1, 2, and 3 maps onto the CSEC curriculum. Because, you know, we want to change that language that's out there. All right, so before we go into mapping the stage 1, 2, and 3 onto the CSEC curriculum, we'll take a short break.
My name is Alisa Brown. My title is a teacher assistant at Crystal House, Jamaica. The certifications I hold is City and Guilds Maths and City and Guilds English. My teacher, Miss Walker, she pushed me into that part of doing that subject at that time, and I applied for HEART for the program. I got a call, and when I went to a Crystal House, they accepted me, employed me, trained me how to train in the work as a teacher. And then after that, 6 months or between 7, they employed me as one of their employees over Crystal House. I feel excited. I am very encouraged by it. I would not be in this position if I didn't do my City and Guilds Maths and English. So go for it.
we are back. So we are here discussing how City and Guilds Math is an excellent, viable option for our Jamaican students as they engage in their final year in high school or even in their 10th year. So, 10th year, is that the 10th? No, I think it's the fourth year. Oh my goodness, right? In grade 10. So you guys, we're just about to look at how CSEC maps onto City and Guilds stage 1, 2, and 3. So our first section is computation. And in this section, just to let the viewers and those who are listening know, we're talking about numbers, perform computations using decimals, the 4 basic operations. Now these are what I want educators to understand. When we engage students with math content, what are we doing? We're building skills. If the skill is built, a child can solve any question with numbers. But sometimes we don't build the skill. Sometimes we kind of drill them to answer a question. And then if the question doesn't look the way we taught them, they struggle. So we want you to understand that as you engage with any math content, you're building a set of skills in your learners. So computation is a skill to know how to divide, add, subtract, all of that. Stage 1, so there are 10 objectives that the CSEC curriculum engages their learners with. Stage 1 only covers 4 of those objectives. And that is why I'm encouraging learners and educators. We want our students to sit stage 3. Why? Because stage 3 is the stage that is, 1, maps closest to the CSEC curriculum, 2, accepted by several, over 21 tertiary institutions. So we want them to engage with the stage 3 curriculum. But we do know that there are various learners on the landscape in Jamaica, and some of them will not matriculate to stage 1 by grade 11. But the beauty about it, we have the 6th form pathway program. So if they engage with the stage 2 in 5th form, we can always let them do the stage 3 in the first year of their 6th form year. All right, so for stage 2, for the computation, the stage 2 covers 9 out of 10 of those objectives. And stage 3 covers all 10 objectives that the CSEC section 1 of computation covers. So we are fully aware that City and Guilds is building the same set of skills that the CSEC does as it pertains to computation. Then we move to the next section, which is number theory. Number theory has 10 objectives. If you look at the stage 1 will only cover 4. Stage 2, 4 of those objectives. Stage 2 covers, that is what? 7 of those objectives. And the stage 3 covers all 10 with some variation in 2 of the objectives. So for instance, the objective 4 that says, derive an appropriate rule given the terms of a sequence. It will be a simple rule that they are required to derive at the stage 3 City and Guilds level. And for the one that for objective 8 that says, state the value of a digit in a numeral in base n, where the n can be less than or greater, less than or equal to, that's inequalities right there, less than or equal to 10, that is for CSEC, while in City and Guilds, they're only working with base 10. And that's a variation. So a teacher who is engaged in a class, because we know sometimes there are limitations in the schools and you can't, I don't recommend it, I don't encourage it, let me just get that out there. But sometimes a few students are sitting the stage 3 exam and they find themselves in a CSEC class. So the teacher has to be deliberate in ensuring that the content that they're covering in the CSEC class maps properly to what is needed for the stage 3 students. It can't be just teach CSEC and you don't pay attention to the City and Guilds. And that's for those classes that have mixed students. Now the next section we have in CSEC is consumer arithmetic. Stage 1 has no consumer arithmetic. Now remember, if you would have looked at the 3 stages, stage 1 is pretty much foundational skills that we're building. We want a child who would have engaged with stage 1 to be building up their confidence in math. Right. You know that, let me ask you, what is the math culture of many students that you engage with? How do they feel about math?
They don't like it.
It's
They don't like it.
it's just negative. The confidence, they lack the confidence, and with low confidence, the effort also falls.
There you go. You know your students love you, but you know sometimes they struggle. Why are they struggling with math so much? Why are they afraid of math? Because their confidence, as Tarek just said, the confidence of the students has a lot to do with how they perform in math. So if you're engaging students with stage 1, you want to be deliberate, you want to be very clear on how you engage them with the stage 1 content, because this can build their confidence. Let them do well at the stage 1. These are fundamental skills that you are developing in your learners. So when you have them do well at stage 1, their confidence is bolstered. They can now say, all right, I can do math. And then you can give them a little bit more, which stage 2 offers. And then we move them into stage 3, if we definitely have that time. All right. And I love the fact that Jamaica now is on we are now doing what we say students should have at least 7 years at the secondary level. So if a child is struggling and not getting the math by 5th form, they have the 6th form years to make sure that they are numerate, because one of the things that Jamaica education system wants, the vision, is that each child should leave high school with 5 exit exams, including math and English. Now, the math can be City and Guilds, it can also be CSEC. So, if a child has City and Guilds, stage 3, they would have be a part of that vision for Jamaicans who are leaving high school. All right, so we're talking about consumer arithmetic. Stage 1 does not cover consumer arithmetic. However, stage 2 covers 8 of those 9 objectives, and stage 3 also covers 8 of those 9 objectives. The next section is sets. City and Guilds has no set content, so students are not engaged with sets. So you see now why you have to be very deliberate if you have them in a CSEC class, because why are you doing sets? You might throw them off and then lose their confidence again. So you have to also be deliberate in what we constantly preach, differentiated instruction. In the class when you're teaching sets to your CSEC class, if you do have that, you must engage those City and Guilds students with the content that they require at that time. The next section that we have in the CSEC, we're still looking at mapping the 3 stages to the CSEC curriculum. Measurement. Measurement has 13 objectives, and stage 1 covers, I'm going to have to count now, 10 of them. Look at that. 10 of them, while the stage 2 covers 12 of them, and stage 3 covers all 13, with some level of variation. So we understand that all 13 objectives are covered in the stage 3 for the unit measurement. However, there are some variation. For instance, you have calculate the surface area of solids, and for City and Guilds, you will only look at prisms and cylinders, while you look at prism, cylinder, pyramids, cone, sphere, cone, and cuboids in CSEC. So as the educator, this is something that you ought to know, because most of our teachers, they don't only teach City and Guilds, they teach both the CSEC and the City and Guilds content. So they ought to know how to engage the students correctly. Then you have statistics. Statistics. There are 15 objectives in the CSEC curriculum. Stage 1 would only cover 1 of those objectives. Stage 2 covering a little bit more, which is, 6 of them, and then stage 3 covering 12 of those objectives. So you see where I'm getting at. I know it sounds repetitive, but I would have done this before and I would have drawn your attention to it, but I need educators to be the professionals that they are in being fully aware of the curriculum that they're engaging the students with, and being able to compare the CSEC and the City and Guilds so that they meet the needs of the learners in front of them. All right, and the 7th unit section for CSEC is algebra, and it would have had 18 objectives, in which stage 1 would cover 1, 2, 3, 4 of those objectives, stage 2 covering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those objectives, and stage 3 covering a little bit more than 6. You can see it on the screen. All right, great. And there are some variation which you also will see. Then you have our last objectives here. We have 8, 9, 10, and 11. Relation, function, and graph covered by CSEC. City and Guilds does not teach anything to do with relation, function, and graph. Why is this important to know? If I have a class that I would have taught, sometimes, you know, as educators, we have a lesson plan and we teach a CSEC group, and we run into the City and Guilds class. We may not have been fully prepared, but we have more relations, graph, function lesson, and we sometimes engage the students. They are not going to be assessed on this, and sometimes it's a little bit over their heads, and it can frustrate them. We deplete their confidence again, so it's important to know that you don't need to engage them with this, although you're teaching it to the other group, because it is not a requirement for them. Basic geometry covered 7 objectives in CSEC, and the one that covers most of them, which is 6 of those objectives, is the stage 3 City and Guilds. Transformational geometry and trig, so we're not doing any enlargement and any give me another one. Translation. Look at that. For a moment, my mind. But they're not doing that. So your City and Guilds students should not be engaged in this content. If you do it, it is just probably to widen their scope, but it should not be something that you are assessing them on, and I'm using the word stressing them out with. Vectors and matrices is not being done by any stage of the City and Guilds as well. So those are things that I want us as educators, as professionals in our fields, to pay attention to, what we're engaging the students with and how the curriculum should look. So it's now time to look at our examiner's report. We want to discuss what it says and how we move forward. Now, why is it important for us to pay attention to the examiner's report when we have a set of students? Because we're professional, we're reflective, you know, we're lifelong learners. So because we're educators who believe in a reflective practice, when we teach our students, when we facilitate knowledge, learning, we want to look and see if we could have done it differently, what we did, if it worked, and how we can make it better. So these are some of the few things, there are a few things that the examiner's report spoke about for stage 1. Students were strong in counting, missing numbers, and writing large numbers. They, however, were weak in decimal fractions, fraction equivalence, and rounding down. Let me explain why this is a problem. Stage 1 students only work with halves and quarters, and they were weak in equivalence. So when we talk about a half, 1 half, 1 out of 2 parts. Equivalent to that is 3 out of 6 parts, 4 out of 8 parts, 5 out of 10 parts. For a child to be weak in this, we have to go look at how we engage in them, because this is really content that, you know, the younger kids would have engaged with.
It should be clear cut. Clear cut.
These are our simplest fractions. So if the students are not performing in it, we have to revisit how we engage in them. And we can't think that because they're big, them really kids, you know. Them just want like them bigger school, you know, but them really children. So not because they're big, we can't use
the manipulative.
Thank you. Get one sheet of paper, man. Look, this is a whole. And we put the paper in 2 equal parts. This is what? This part, and we can cross it out and make them, oh, we can cross it to 2 parts. And my pen is not working, people. But we can see that this part and this part, this is 1 half, this is another half. And if we want to go either for the same half, the same whole, can be divided into quarters. And we can continue, and this is not expensive. This is not, so we can't complain about resources. We can use what we have. I was suggesting to a teacher that you can put students in groups of 4 and have them pool their money and buy 1 sheet of cartridge paper, divide the cartridge paper into quarters, and have them make fraction strips. Cut out the 1 part. This is the whole. You can divide the whole in 2 parts. You can divide the whole in 4 parts. And when you want to talk about equivalency, you can divide that same whole into 4 parts and show that 2 out of the 4 parts make the half. And then divide it some more.
What's funny is too, if it's a case where, as teachers, where the money is not enough.
You know how it goes.
And you're like, oh, I can't manage to buy anything. You can even use the students themselves.
There you go.
Put them in a group. 4 students together, separate them.
And you show them how the fraction.
Separate them again. And let them visually see the comparisons.
I'm glad you brought that in.
We have options.
I'm glad you brought that in. Because another issue we have is teaching naked numbers. We don't contextualize concepts. Why would a child need to know half? If I say to them though, half of the class come with me, they ought to know how to differentiate what is half of the class. If I say half of the boys in the class will go to music and the other half will go something, let them say to me, Miss, we don't really have a half because we're an odd number, right? Those are things that we need to do in our classes to make the math real for the students. So those are some of the findings. It also spoke about weak in reading analog clocks. Now everybody knows that your smartwatch and your phone give you a digital reading, but it is still a requirement. The skill of reading a clock is required. So do we give the kids, we know it's not primary school, so we don't really want them to make a clock. But I know Tarrant has clocks, right? I know your school have clocks. So it is not too big to take it to your grade 10 class. And you'll be surprised. They will enjoy the day. You know, engage them with the clocks. Let them see what the time looks like. So you look at the time and you ask them to tell you the digital time that's on their watches or their phones. And then you ask them to represent that time and see how easy it is. Let them pay attention to the little marks in between those big numbers. So when you have the students look at an analog clock, let them realize that those little marks represent 5 minutes. When you're moving from 1 to 2 on the clock, you would have moved 5 minutes. And you can continue to check those 5 minutes as you move around the clock. Awesome. Temperature, thermometers. How many of us look at temperature in the class? And actually, if we don't have a thermometer, bring up a picture. This is the age. We live in a digital world. Are we bringing these things into the space of the students? So in England, if you have negative 20 degrees Celsius, you ought to understand what that looks like on a thermometer. And you ought to understand what would happen for the temperature to reach negative 35, right? So you ought to be able to subtract, add whatever is required to tell the change in degrees Celsius. All right, so that is something that we need to make real for the students. The examiner reports also speak to weak in line graphs and financial context, bank statements. Just the other day, I was discussing that really and truly, how many of us, because we're math people, when you look at your bills or a bank slip, who taught us to fill these out? Who taught us to interpret our water bill and our electric bill? Who taught us? And now, with the digital app on JPS and NWC, it's a graph. It's a monthly graph. You see your usage of power. Are we using this in our class? Be fair to the system. Are we? Denise, tell me about it. Do you use these apps and engage the students?
No.
We ought to. We're going to work on it this year. Yes, because it's there and it's real. Math is not to be taught in a vacuum. Math is to be a part of our daily lives. And every concept that we engage students with, they ought to see the relevance of it in their functional life. So, for instance, when you look at you have the app for JPS?
No, I don't.
You have the app and you have
I do.
Okay.
I do.
When you look at it, don't you adjust your usage of light sometimes?
I most definitely
Energy, I
adjust.
should say. Energy, right.
Energy conservation is very important.
Okay.
Especially for me, whenever I check that GPS app, so when I see spiking a little bit,
Okay.
I ensure to walk around my house and turn off all my lights.
And plug out all those extra appliances that are not presently using. Good. So when a child looks at a graph and understand that this graph is applicable on an app that tells them of their energy consumption, they now realize that, oh, I kind of need to learn this, because even if I'm not going to do extensive math out there, I'm going to use electricity. And I need to understand how I'm being built and be able to conserve when necessary. Good. Bank statements is another thing. There's no subject that teaches. I think guidance does it somewhat, but math, City and Guilds ought to be deliberate in ensuring that you take a bank slip from a bank, take it to class, put in the money's amount, and especially in the areas that when you write up your bank slip, it doesn't only require your numerical value. What it requires? The words. So even if you can write 55,000 and you know the numerical representation, life requires you to write the words of that value. So therefore, we need to let our students realize that this is contextual. This is where this skill is required. One of the places. Confusion with area and perimeter. Tell me about that, Tariq, because you teach them. Why we're not getting this right?
This is something that I see students struggling with all the time, right? And the best thing that I can do is to use, there's a manipulative called a geoboard.
Know it?
Right? I've used that to explain what area is. And I find the students, it grabs their attention that they have something to work with. They use the elastic bands to split up the board, and they can see that the area would be indicated by the square pattern that is formed. Whereas if it's the perimeter that we're dealing with, you have to emphasize perimeter. And I try to link it back to things like, let's say, gardening or construction.
Good.
Right? Use real world scenarios. Let them know that the principal is trying to fix up the play area.
All right.
Fix up the field. But for security, we need to build a fence. How would you know how much fencing would be needed to cover the end, to surround the entire
because I was just going to tell you, if it's a cover,
I
we
said
got
cover,
again.
yeah.
Right.
So our choice of words
Very good.
affect our
How they
students'
grasp these
interpretation.
concepts. Yes.
Yeah, so we need to work on our choice of words, our visualization, how we present it to our students so that they can see the difference.
Yes. Yes. So as Tariq said, it is important that we speak the language. The math language is extremely important, and the visual representation that we bring to the classroom. When you are teaching students about area and perimeter, to make it very clear, let them find the perimeter, let them find the area of a specific space, a specific shape and area within the school. Make it authentic. This word is out there, and I want you to understand authenticity means bring it into the students' natural experience. Students have fence, whether it be zinc, link fence, wall, them have fence. They know what that is. When you're teaching area and perimeter, perimeter is the fence. Area or where you put your house, where you walk on, where you build on, where you farm on, that's the area. It's the coverage of the space, while the perimeter is the boundary around the shape, okay? Or the boundary of the outline of the shape. Use the correct language. So, decline in finding volumes and cuboids. So now that the examiner's report has pointed out some stuff for stage 1, think about it. What does this look like instruction for the coming academic year? I know you would have started teaching already, but you can definitely be more deliberate in how you engage your students to ensure that when you look at June 2026 report from the examiner, it looks better. Let's take a break.
The City and Guilds qualifications are recognized worldwide. It opens doors locally and regionally for anyone who has a certificate. Employers know the value of the City and Guilds certification, whether it's in any of the subject areas, customer service, math, English, because it provides that real world skill that are transferable across industries. We focus on practical skills that employers look for, especially in technical and vocational areas, but it's not limited to that. We offer a certification for everyone, whether you're in high school, a recent graduate of high school, or even in the workforce. Our strong local partnerships ensure that the certifications match the needs of the employers today. In addition to the physical certificate, you'll receive a digital badge which you can showcase or display on your social media, your website, or your email signature. It's a verified way to impress your employers and showcase your achievements. To start your City and Guilds journey, you can first visit our website, cityandguilds.com. You can call us or visit the office in Kingston. Here at City and Guilds, you're not just getting a certification, you're opening the door to a world of opportunities.
Welcome back to our workshop where we are discussing Math Skills 3850 for exam sitting June 2026. We are looking at the Chief Examiner's report for the June exam that was sat in June 2025 of this year. Okay, great. So let us look at some data that we want to pay attention to. Stage 1, which is a bit alarming. So as educators, we need to pay attention to what's happening. Now, stage 1, which is our most basic stage, talking about foundational skills, fundamental skills in our learners. When we look at the data, we had 2,954 students sitting the stage 1. What is alarming is that 50.37% of those students failed. Now, that speaks to us as educators, and as we started out, being reflective educators. What should teachers who engage students in the stage 1 think about for this year? Denise, you want to give them a little pointer on how, what should this data say to them?
Well, what it said to me, and it should say to other educators, is that, and I hate to say that as educators we are somewhat failing the system, because it would have been our instructions or our strategies that would have affected these outcomes, right? It would have given us these outcomes, and as such we need to look at how we approach teaching the content. And you know, earlier you mentioned about, or Tariq mentioned, using manipulatives. I believe we, at the high school level, we think, oh, we're big and the students are big. And as such, it's primary school thing. And I recognize that we tend to omit the conceptual learning or teaching of contents. And as such, we barely teach the students to memorize concepts. So we need to get back to where we teach conceptual understanding instead of just procedural.
Thank you so very much, Denise. And as Denise clearly pointed out, we have to learn to take responsibility for what we're doing in the classroom, because our students' performance in most cases is a reflection of how they were engaged. And we're not saying that you can't teach, we're not saying that you taught badly. However, how it was done was not the best way, because the results, the performance would indicate that there was more, or it should have been done differently. In that sense, is as Dominic and I were saying, sometimes we engage with kids with too much content for the stage that they're doing. So a stage 1 child should not be pushed into the stage 3 content, because that's not the exam they're sitting. So we have to be fair to our learners in engaging them with a specific stage for the exam that they're going to sit. We want to see some different percentages next year, right? So we have some pointers to share with you as we progress, but the data is not, we shouldn't sit comfortable, realizing that stage 1, which is our basic stage, our fundamental stage, is not being grasped. The students are not mastering this stage as we'd want them to. So there are, from the examiner's report, which will be shared with you at the, in an email for you to go through a little bit more detail, not only with yourself, but as a team. It is important that as you engage your learners, you do common planning. You know, the Bible says, iron sharpeneth iron. So as you work together, you build your pedagogical skills, and you help enhance the instructions that you give to your learners. We did say that the stage 1 has 8 units, and the report will give you a more detailed look at how the students performed in each unit, and the weak points and the strengths of the unit. I'm going to touch one. We have measurement and standard units, which is 102 in the stage 1. It says some candidates were able to measure the line correctly. Some to measure a line correctly. Now this is a basic skill. Now if you are teaching measurement and a child never used a ruler in the class, we would have failed them. If you're teaching measurement of length and a child doesn't understand that the measuring tape, the dressmaker, what is that again? The yardstick, the tape measure. And one day, you know, nobody says to the tailor, hey, I need a pants, you know. Make me a pants and a shirt, I'll pick it up in a week time. Nobody says that. So therefore, measurement is important. Have the child realize that the tailor, the dressmaker, call you in to take a measurement. And they take measurement not just of your height, because what a frock that would be. So they take measurement of the circumference of your arms to make sure the sleeve is not too big or not too tight. Because you know, some of you have a little bigger arms. But you know what I mean. They have to measure your waist. They measure from here to your back, depending on the type of style. So measurement is real. Let them measure different aspects. Let them have conversation with the tailor and the dressmaker. Sure, Tariq. What else could we do?
Funny enough, when we're looking at that portion, I was thinking this would be the perfect time to reach out to other departments in the school, which would help the students to see the connection between math and various other subjects, as well as various parts of their day-to-day life. We could reach out to the industrial arts department. Could reach out to home ecology, right?
That's what it's called now?
Yes.
What? Home ecology. I know it says home economics, but home ecology it is.
We could have the clothing and textiles, show them how to use the tape measure, give them practical experience, make them go in the industrial arts department, go measure some blocks.
Look at that.
You know, they'll get hands-on experience. They can see the various comparisons with the different types of measurements. They can then estimate how, okay, this is what a meter looks like versus a centimeter, and that will aid them in their development as well as increase their interest and improve their confidence when they are working with
I love Tariq just always talks about the confidence of these learners, that's what we're trying to build. We're trying to build the confidence of our learners. You spoke about some very important things. Not until I did construction, I understood the difference between an 8-inch and a 6-inch and a 4-inch block. What part of the block are they measuring to give me the 4, the 6, and the 8? Those things could be pointed out to the students from the which part? Construction. Industrial. Thank you. From the industrial art teacher. So, and I mean, some of the students are doing industrial arts. So they can now come to class with confidence and explain to their classmates how you differentiate among these different sizes of blocks. You spoke about home ecology. We talk about measurement. We measure when we're baking, when we're cooking. Let that be a part of the conversation. Listen, I don't know about you, but if I ever go to a class and I don't talk, I don't learn nothing. Me can tell you. So I don't know how we expect our learners to sit in class and quiet. And you talk for the entire time and they don't talk and you think they're learning. It don't work like that. It doesn't. You look around you. Those people, those children who are experiencing the concept, they learn it. It becomes a part of them. So the math class has to come alive. It has to be something that they can connect to their daily life. How they measure why a baby get X amount of medicine versus a toddler. And sometimes, you know, some toddlers are bigger than others, so they get more, right? So all of those things, why the proportion that we eat is this amount, and why me like myself, you know, should eat less. So all of those things you can bring into the classroom. Let the kids enjoy the math. Let the math be real to them. It don't matter the stage. Whatever the stage is, engage your kids in such a way that these things, they do well. You're building a set of skills. So the examiner's report continued to say, choosing a suitable unit. They were okay. Some were able to choose a suitable unit, but many candidates were unable to recognize the time, which we said on the analog clock. So not only, they can't read it, you know, they just don't know what it's saying. All right? And then it says, candidates were also unfamiliar with the freezing point of water expressed in degrees Fahrenheit. Now, most persons are familiar with degrees Celsius, freezing point means 0. But there is a conversion, which is 32 degrees difference. So Fahrenheit, freezing point would be 32 degrees Fahrenheit. It is an objective within the curriculum. So if you are paying attention to the curriculum, you can't miss that that is required. So that is why I need you also to be very deliberate in knowing the curriculum that the students engage with. And then we can move on now to shape and space continues to be an area that we need improvement in. The 3D, we need to bring the solids into the classroom. The cornflakes box, the juice box, crushed on the top of course, because that's not a real cuboid, but flatten it. And if you have solids, let them make it with cartridge paper. You know when we're in grade 7, we made solids. You can give them, you don't have to give them all of them. Let them make a cuboid and a cube and let them interact with it. Let them realize it has depth. It has three dimensions. Speak to it with them. Let them understand that things in their environment have different depth and width and length. Operations and decimal fractions. Some candidates demonstrated a weak performance in this section. We know that decimals, sometimes students shy away from it. But if we teach us the skill of working with decimal, they'll understand how simple it is. And it's very similar to when they're working with whole numbers. So we have to be deliberate in that. All right, and then we have appropriate strategies for mathematical terms. Under half of the candidates could recognize a suitable equation or a suitable check. A similar proportion was unable to show an understanding of mathematical terms in everyday conversation. That means the class lack mathematical discourse. We're not talking the math. And Tariq, you said it already, and I know Dominic, you support this, that you must have talks in the class. Talk about the math that you're doing so that you understand how it is important to everyday conversation. All right? So those are things, and that is just stage 1 that we're looking at. So some of the recommendations we have for the teachers. What are some of the recommendations that we have?
Well, it's very important as teachers that they use the fraction strips or even the decimal grades for equivalence, as well as provide daily practice in rounding both up and rounding down.
Awesome. And we have other recommendations for measurements. Use classroom thermometers, clocks. Get analog clocks, people. You have to have the kids engage with the real clock. The one them where you go at Azans and you buy and you move the back, and yeah man, you can buy one for your class. Let them realize that it still is important to be able to read it. Rulers. You cannot teach measurement without the instruments. Integrate freezing, boiling points into science and math lessons. And as said previously, integration of subjects would bring out these points more concretely. Denise also spoke about teaching for conceptual understanding. If we take those stands, I assure you our students work.
Skyrocket.
Thank you so very much. I was lost for words for a moment. But my colleague here found it for me. Data handling, practice drawing and completing graphs. They do not require to do much drawing at this stage, but what you can do is allow them to do basic things, basic graph, and of course, let them take information from graph. Let them look at it and see. And it's important. At times, there are different visuals that our society will display that they need to know how to interpret these graphs that are found in our everyday life. Integrate simple financial records into problems. Why would your account have a negative balance? What could cause such a thing? Let them understand that there are fees that are withdrawn, and if you don't have enough money, it shows that you owe the bank this amount. So, talk about credit. When you borrow the credit and you put on the credit, you forget to borrow the credit, and now you have a negative balance and you don't have no credit. That is all math at work. And if you engage your students with things that are in their experience, that is making it authentic, putting it in context, that's making it into situational learning, I assure you they will do better in the math class. That was a mouthful. That was stage 1. Now we're at stage 2. I know you would have said to me earlier that most of your students would engage with stage 2 and stage 3 curriculum. What do you find, what can you say about the stage 2 students that you had to work on to get them prepared for their exam last year? What are some of the things that you probably, 1 or 2 things that you would have worked with that they struggled with?
Well, one of the areas that I find that a lot of students struggle with is operations on whole numbers, especially when it comes on to multiplication and division. I noticed that that's one of their greatest areas of weakness. So we spend a good little chunk of time helping them to understand the skill behind it in order that they can be successful in their exams.
Wow. I'm going to take some comments from you guys, but just before, I want you teachers to marinate on that. I want you to think about what are the areas your students struggled with last academic year, and how, as a professional educator, you're going to work on those areas this year to ensure that the passes that you would have received that you weren't so happy with will be better for this year. We'll take a break.
City and Guilds is a viable option for several students in Jamaica, and the accreditation is very valuable as students go towards their career path or prepare themselves to enter the tertiary institution of choice. Several organizations see the value of their employees being certified in City and Guilds. That being said, we can talk about Jamaica Constabulary Force and the toll booth operators. They would have seen the value of it and invested in developing their employees professionally by sponsoring them to obtain certification in City and Guilds. CSAC is our regional exam. However, City and Guilds is a viable option for students who are not going to enter into career paths that are math extensive. And that being said, City and Guilds Math is an excellent option for students who have these new career paths. The lawyer, the doctor are not the only professions out there. City and Guilds Math is a viable option that should be explored by you if your career path does not require extensive math studies. It will take you places.
Music license.
All right, welcome back. And we are here this year looking at our June 25 math passes, fails, and we are trying to make sure that we would have impacted change, positive change, more passes in our student for June 2026. So we're looking at some of the practices we would have had last year, and we want to be able to, as reflective practitioners, look at them and adjust so that our students benefit in the best possible way. So just to look at some data here, the number of candidates for stage 2 for the 2025 June exam was 12,170, and we only received 7% of the students with distinctions. That's not good enough. We need to fix that. Because remember, educators, why do we do what we do? To equip our learners to survive, to do their best, to be their best versions. We impart knowledge, we facilitate growth, and at 7.19% at the distinction stage isn't enough for us. However, we do have 29% receiving pass and 16%. So we have over 50% who would have been successful in receiving pass or above at the stage 2 level. I must say it's a bit shocking that the students did better at stage 2 than they did in stage 1. Something to think about. But we still have 46% of the students who sat the stage 2 exam failing the exam. And that is a reason for concern in how we operate for the new academic year. Now at Tarrant, your students, you do encourage that the students do stage 3 in grade 11. So you are presently engaging them with stage 2 at the grade 10 level once they have been placed in the City and Guilds. And that's excellent. That means you are able to build up the confidence by engaging with the stage 2, and by the time they reach grade 11, they would have pretty much understood a little bit more and now can add to that. And they're engaged. They're not in any mixed class. They're not in the CSEC and expected grade. So you see, that's what we want. We want the students to be in the specific class that they require for the exam. So you have your City and Guilds class and you have your CSEC class. So you engage your students accordingly. Another point that I wanted to make, which slipped me for a moment, but I'm going to figure it out. Let us look at the Chief Examiner's report for stage 2. So some of the overall things that we need to pay attention to. Candidates were confident in place value, with improvements in decimal operations, percentages, and fraction decimal percent conversion. So they were able to convert through those representations easily. Once again, shape and space requires more attention every year. Why? We have to look at it. We have to look at shape and space. Are we teaching the students about shapes? Three-dimensional shape, and all we give them is a three-dimensional representation on the board. Do they hold the solids in their hand? Do they know that they engage with solids on an everyday basis? Those are questions we need to look at. We need to decompose the objectives of shape and space. And we'll probably have to do a little workshop on shape and space as the year progresses, because we need to fix this. Every year it is a sore point. Average and range and elementary algebra showed improvements, but it is still low performing. Not many students are doing well in these topics. We need to look at those. Lower scores in order of magnitude. We think that it may be due to the wording and the fact that some students, the language that they were being accustomed to in the class was different from the language that was on the assessment. So those are things that teachers, you need to pay attention to, what the question looks like, what the language is used within the assessment questions. So you also, not to teach that question, but pay attention to the language so you can use that language in the classroom, so you don't throw the kids off when they see it. However, data interpretation, graphs, charts improved this year, so that's a plus. So good job, teachers. Your students would have done better on interpreting graphs. Awesome work out there. Place value, the students were confident in that, so place value is also a high point for you, and that's excellent. One thing we must note, when a child is able to identify the place value of a number, it doesn't matter what number you give them. They know what it is. My daughter, she's in grade 5, and when she sees a number with 7 digits, she calls a million. She knows that first digit is 7 million because she's seen the periods, and she's seen that is 7 digit must mean that the first digit is in the millionth place. Good. So you want your students to know that the digit on the right is always the ones. Left of the right is your tens, hundreds, 10,000, 100,000. That's right? Yes. So once they understand, once they have the skill of identifying place value, any number given to them, they will do well with it, if it has to do with place value. Then the examiner's report looked at each unit, and we know that stage 2 has 13 units. We're just going to read a few of the things, because you will get an email with the examiner's report for you to peruse on your own time with your colleagues and plan accordingly. So place value, candidates generally performed well in this section. We said it already. However, candidates performed less well in their response to the question relating to recognizing the place value of hundredths in a number. So now they're okay with whole number section, but the hundredths, so the decimal representation, they didn't do so well on it. So remember, when you're teaching place value cannot be taught just about the whole numbers, but the decimal portion, the fractional portion, has to be emphasized as well. All right, and we will look at another, operations on common fractions. Once again, just over half of the cohort were able to recognize equivalences, but less than half were able to add and subtract fractions. This is an area of concern. So fractions, we have to look at the objectives that need to be covered under fractions and ensure that we're decomposing the objective correctly. I use the word decomposing, and I probably should expand a little about the decomposing. When you look at an objective, what is the condition that you want that the child should learn this concept under? The decomposing also speaks about the context in which you should teach it. So the context, what else? It talks about the context, the measurable portion. What else does it talk about? I'm trying to look at the decomposition of it. In my head, I can't bring it up, but I will look at it a little bit more in another presentation. We'll look at shape and space, decomposing objectives. So we'll look at objectives and help you decompose a few, just to ensure that we're equipping you with the skill set that you, the educators, need to do well. All right, so percentages. There was a weak performance in some aspect of this section. Less than a third could find 10%. 10% of an amount, but more could find 25%. It's kind of alarming how you do well or you do poorly with the 10% and less with the 25%.
I think it speaks to what Dominique would have said earlier, where we may be overwhelming or over-teaching the content at the different stages, because if at stage 2 we're to do 10 and
25
and 50, say the
Okay.
zeros.
Right.
And we're doing 25 and 35 and 45.
And 17.
And 17, then we are indeed overwhelming the students. And as such, you know, what they should know, they don't know, and what they should not know, they know.
Surprising you say that, but another rule that we have to think about, another point. It would appear though, if a child did well at 25% and not well at the 10, the skill is missing. They probably know the algorithm for the 25%, so it's 25 over 100, and that's a quarter, and they can work with a quarter. But they don't know what the skill is for finding percentage of amount.
That was actually my thought as well, because I'm thinking about it. They may just be looking at it as saying, oh, 25. They may have memorized that whenever it's 25, you break it into 4 parts. When it's 50, you break it into 2 parts. But when it's 10, they don't know what to do. They don't remember. They don't have a memory of that. So it seems to me that they might just be working with memory rather than an actual understanding of what to do.
So educators, that's something to note. Are we teaching the skill as we are supposed to be doing? Are we developing the skills in the learners, or are we teaching them how to memorize algorithm in order to complete an item? So those are things that we need to look at, and we need to be deliberate in how we engage the learners. Ratio and proportion. And as I said, I'm not reading in order. I'm just picking out some and we're reading it and talking about it. So ratio and proportion, around half of the candidates perform well on 2 of the questions in this section. However, less than a quarter of the candidates chose the correct answer for the length. However, let me see less than a quarter of the candidates chose the correct answer for the length of the wall on a plan. Now, let's remember what we said about City and Guilds. City and Guilds is a practical math course engagement that students are building skill sets that they can use in everyday life. Now, who uses a plan? The draftsman, the architect, the construction worker. So, when he looks at the plan, he ought to know the measure that he needs to go and put those blocks in the ground, right? To form out that building. So students who are engaging with the stage 2 are expected to be able to look at a plan, a simple plan, and read and take information from it. Now, less than a quarter of them were able to what? To choose the correct answer for the length of the wall. Now, this is length, which is, I think, the easiest unit of measure that we can probably look at. So we need to look at how we engage them. And we need to let the kids draw a floor plan of the classroom. Size it down, right? Can you put this entire wall on a sheet of paper? No, we can't, right? But we can scale it down, right? To represent on a sheet of paper. And when I look at it, I know that if this wall is 10 feet, that means I probably use 1 centimeter per foot. 1 centimeter, you heard me, I said foot. 1 centimeter per foot, and we do that measurement and we do that drawing. So as I said, we can't employ you enough. We can't encourage you enough. Math has to be what?
It has to be practical.
Practical.
Engaging.
Engaging.
And we have to integrate it.
Integrated. So you hear that? The math that you're engaging the students is, it has to be practical, it has to be engaging, and it has to be integrated. I'm sure you said something else, but I don't remember. It has to be integrated in other subject areas so that the students are learning math in the best way possible. All right, so we are now looking at, so we don't only want to talk about the negatives. Your examiner's report do talk about, the good things that you're doing out there. Elementary algebra performance increased in this section. A question requiring candidates to substitute values into a formula was answered correctly by more than half of the candidates. So great job, teachers. You are engaging the students well with the algebraic content, and they're showing us that they understand. That skill would have met. Candidates, I'm going to go to something positive again. Tables, graphs, charts, and maps. Candidates demonstrated a higher performance in this section with pie charts, graphs, and pictograms. However, a little negative is there. However, only a third chose the correct answer for the frequency of the given interval. So once again, as I said before, and as we would have encouraged you, pay attention to the curriculum guide, pay attention to the objective. Understand what the objective is asking you to do. All right? And then you can know how to engage the learners as best as possible. So we're going to look at the recommendations, and after the recommendation, we'll take a short break. So let us look at the recommendation. Tariq, what are some of the recommendations that we want our teachers to take away?
Well, we want to have them focus on adding and subtraction of fractions and finding simple percentages like 10% and 25%.
Awesome.
We also want to give more practice with dividing by 2-digit numbers in both whole numbers and decimals.
Right. Awesome. So, along with what Tariq just said, we want to help students learn metric measurements and how to find area and perimeter. And definitely, we need to differentiate very clearly. Perimeter and area are two different measurements that they need to pay attention to. In the stage 2, they also look at volume, unlike the stage 1. So make sure students understand how to find the mean and range correctly. You may think it's simple, but be deliberate in how you engage them so they know exactly when this is being used. All right, so we will take a short break at this time.
My name is Alisa Brown. My title is a teacher assistant at Crystal House, Jamaica. The certifications I hold is City and Guilds Maths and City and Guilds English. My teacher, Miss Walker, she pushed me into that part of doing that subject at that time, and I applied for HEART for the program. I got a call, and when I went over Crystal House, they accepted me, employed me, trained me how to train in the work as a teacher, and then after that, 6 months or between 7, they employed me as one of their employees over Crystal House. I feel excited. I am very encouraged by it. I would not be in this position if I didn't do my City and Guilds Maths and English. So go for it.
Welcome back, and we are here discussing our June 2025 exam, City and Guilds Math, and we want to prepare our teachers to engage the students better or differently this year, because we know you're out there and you're doing a fantastic job engaging our students as they sit our math exam. However, looking at data is telling us that something needs to be done differently for us to get more positive data on the students' performance. And that's what we're here for. When we engage our students, we want to make sure that we are getting the best version of them and we are giving the best of us to reap good benefits. So we're at stage 3. We would have looked at stage 1 and 2. We would have also looked at some of the recommendations, some of the points, the points that the chief examiner wants us to pay attention to as we engage the students at our sitting exam for June 2026. So we're now at stage 3. Let us look at what the data says. There were 12,858 students. So that's 12,858 students who would have sat the stage 3 exam June 2025. much better than stage 2 and stage 1, we only have 33.54% of the students failing. However, it's still too many of our students that are still not getting at least a pass. So we do want to up that number, but we would have seen that they would have done better than the stage 1 and 2. Let us look at some of the things that we need to pay attention to, how the students perform. The stage 3 candidates struggled with order of operations. This year, no brackets were used and they could not see what operation should be done first. So we need to, as we engage them, we need to also show them that if brackets are not there, the order of operation still stands. And you know, we have some acronyms that we would have presented to them. The BOMDAS, PEMDAS, so all of those. So whether the bracket is there or not, they must remember that there is an order in which to carry out multiple operations within a math problem. Interpreting tables, dials, and scales continue to be an area where they underperform. And this is not just this year, this is seen in our previous years. So we have to be deliberate in how we engage the tables, when we engage the students with understanding and interpreting data from tables and dials and scales. You do have professions that these students are going to need to employ these skill sets too. You know, if they're working, and I mean, as we said before, there are so many different career paths that are out there. You know, my eldest son, we all thought he would have continued into tertiary institution and complete some amount of further, but he has not. He has chosen to be a photographer, and he's doing very well. So you need to pay attention, students, teachers. Have a discussion, know your students. Where do they want to go with their lives? And help to guide them best as possible. And these skill sets we're building with City and Guilds, especially stage 3, will equip them to carry out these functions in their career path. So, some observation that were another set of observation that the examiner's report brought to our mind is the time zone questions. It was easier for the students when the country was ahead of the one that they were asked to speak about. So you have to change the dynamic of how you engage them with those time zone questions, because they struggle if the time is behind. Elementary statistic performance remain unchanged from 2024. So they pretty much did the same there. All right. So as spoken about before, the examiner's report does give you a little bit more detail for each of the unit in each stage. So we're going to pick out a few from the stage 3, talk about it, and look at how we can make the engagement better. So operations on decimal fractions. Candidates generally performed well in this section when question involved addition and subtraction. However, only half could multiply, which you did bring our attention to it before, that multiplying, they struggled with it, especially struggled with decimal multiplication. So we need to find ways in which we can build a skill set by equipping the kids with the necessary resource they need to do well when they're multiplying by decimal. And the decimals are usually in the 10th place. So we have to look at how we do this. Let them understand what that multiplication is saying to them. Operations on common fraction, candidates demonstrated low performance on some parts of this section, particularly subtraction and multiplication again. So what is this examiner's report saying to us? Pay attention to the areas that they're talking about, because the report, and if the report is making note of it, it means that a large percentage of the students would have had this issue. So that means it's not a one teacher or two teacher. Several of us that are engaging the students need to look at how deliberate we are in engaging them with this content. Anything to say? All right, for percentages, how do your students normally do with percentages, Denise?
Well, you know how they want to use calculators, right? So they do struggle, and if you can't divide or multiply, then naturally you're going to struggle with percentage.
Point taken. So back again, remember what we've said it, and we can't say it anymore, but we continue to say it. We are building skills. We are ensuring that our students have the skill set to do the questions. So as Denise rightfully said a while ago, if you can't divide and multiply, division is a skill. Not everyone can divide. Not everyone can multiply. It's a skill. So if that skill is not present in our students, percentages become a problem. So before a child, and if you look at how the curriculum is organized, these skills are to be engaged with before teaching percentages. So you have to be deliberate in how you organize and how you engage the students to ensure that they do well in these areas. So the report says around half of the candidates performed well in this section. Great job, teachers. I applaud you. Keep up the good work. There was an increase in the proportion able to answer the question on interest this year. It involves simple interest rather than compound interest. So great job. They did perform better in that area. Over half were able to answer the question on simple depreciation correctly. That is also a good point to celebrate. Conversions between common fractions, decimal fractions, and percentages. Conversion. Around half of the candidates could express a percentage as a decimal fraction, but fewer could express a common fraction as a percentage. So we're talking about what is half as a percentage, what is quarter as a percentage. And really and truly, these are what we call basic knowledge that they should have. So we need to be deliberate in that. Once you know is half, you know 50%, because 100% represent the one. So it goes again to how we're engaging them and how real we're making these things. The report says only a third were able to choose the discount voucher that gave the cheapest price for an order. Now, discount can be given, and this is, can't say it anymore, but City and Guilds teach you how to live, teach you how to function. And our aim is that our students leave secondary school being numerate to function. So when you go into a store and the store owner says 50% off, you should know right away it's half of the price you're talking about, because 50% can be represented as half, right? And it is 0.5 if you're going to put it in your phone, because your phone now have 1/2 or a half. Some phone might have it, let me not say that. But you should be able to easily look at a price and understand that 50% is half. 25% is a quarter. So these are things that you should be able to have that everyday conversation. And when a teacher is teaching this, shop corner is a primary school thing, but you can have like a sale day where you say, all right, you are one vendor, and as I said, authenticity is important. You have to know your learners, what is real to them, what is their experience. Some of them know the vending thing pretty good. Have you ever noticed that when you go to the market in Jamaica, they don't need no calculator? And you have put pound of carrot, pound of potato, and their skill, their addition skill, their halving, their skill to multiply and calculate, computational skills strong.
It becomes like second nature.
I
to them
tell
because
you,
they do it so often.
them just mats the thing out. So, these are skill sets that we want to see in our students. When you leave high school, doing math should be something that is standard. Every child should leave with an exit exam. And City and Guilds can be one of those exams that our children leave high school with. Remember, City and Guilds is accepted to enter into tertiary institutions such as Teachers Colleges, JCF, and even Jamaica Defense Force. So we want you to engage the students in such a way that when they do the exam, they do well and are able to carry on. We will take a short break at this time.
The City and Guilds qualifications are recognized worldwide. It opens doors locally and regionally for anyone who has a certificate. Employers know the value of the City and Guilds certification, whether it's in any of the subject areas, customer service, math, English, because it provides that real world skill that are transferable across industries. We focus on practical skills that employers look for, especially in technical and vocational areas, but it's not limited to that. We offer a certification for everyone, whether you're in high school, a recent graduate of high school, or even in the workforce. Our strong local partnerships ensure that the certifications match the needs of the employers today. In addition to the physical certificate, you'll receive a digital badge which you can showcase or display on your social media, your website, or your email signature. It's a verified way to impress your employers and showcase your achievements. To start your City and Guilds journey, you can first visit our website, cityandguilds.com. You can call us or visit the office in Kingston. Here at City and Guilds, you're not just getting a certification, you're opening the door to a world of opportunities.
Welcome back to City and Guilds 2025. We are discussing our June exam. So Tariq, you were telling me about the conversion and how the students...
Yeah, so if you notice, they're able to answer some questions relating to percentages, but when it comes on to discount, they're having trouble. So it's a possibility that as educators, we are not making enough effort to link these things together. So they realize that, oh, just because the word changes doesn't mean that we are doing something completely different. So we have to emphasize that everything is connected and then also connected to real world. Because not only is the links that are important, but we also need to let them practice. And they can practice by simply doing real world calculations. How many students do you have that don't go to the supermarket? How many students do you have that don't follow the parents shopping or do shopping for themselves? You know, we can ask our students questions like that and link it to the lesson in our classroom. Because as we spoke about earlier, the goal is for them to develop their skills so that they can be functional in the real world. And far too often we have students leaving school and when they enter the world, they are confused. They don't know what they're doing.
That is true.
That shouldn't be happening, because as educators, we should ensure that they know that, hey, this is what we're learning now. This is how it's going to help you when you go out there.
Awesome. So as Tariq said, we need to make sure that our students understand the application of whatever concept that they're learning in the classroom. Thank you so very much, Tariq. You also touched on another point about the students. Tariq, I don't remember what you touched. Practicing. Right, the practice. You spoke about practicing. And sometimes we miss the practicing. We think we must give them homework or past paper questions continuously as a practice. But you made a very good point. Practice on real life calculations. It is important that we allow the students to apply the knowledge, the concept that we engage them with in the class to actual examples out there in the world. So Denise, I would have seen you teach, and I mean, I think you're an excellent teacher. I must say, Denise was a nominee for Math Teacher of the Year. I totally forgot to tell you. But she is an excellent teacher and her students love her. What are some of the things that you think allow your students to enjoy your class so well?
I think as Tariq mentioned, is not teaching in isolation, but making the connection with the real world. And I think when you bring life to the math, you give it life, you give it meaning. Because really and truly, most of our students, they don't like math. Their mothers didn't like math. And I tell them, math is a part of your everyday life.
That's right.
It is a part of your everyday life. And you know, sometimes I say to them when they come in the mornings and I have them, I said, you know, how much money did you get this morning? And they tell you how much did you spend for fare? How much do you have left for lunch? And so they're able to connect and they're doing the subtraction and they're like, Miss, me need $200 more for, you know, to go home or whatever, or overspend or so on. So it is making that connection, like Tariq says, with the real life and bringing life to the math, not just teaching it in isolation. It's not just theory, but it's practical. And I think that is why some of them may enjoy the class.
You know they like your class. I see them. They love coming to your class, and that is something I admire about you. And that's excellent, the contextual part of it. So remember earlier I said to you that decomposing the objectives is very good. And you have to look at an objective and realize that there are 3 components that you ought to pay attention to. So you know, the content is important. The complexity of the objective. So the content speaks to what are the students required to learn. Then you talk about the complexity, how deeply the students, and we spoke about this, you know, because remember we're looking at students being able to find the 25% and not the 10. It tells us that sometimes we are over teaching. We're not decomposing the objectives well. So the complexity of the objectives speak to how deeply should this content be understood. And then we talk about the context. The context, we can't emphasize the context. What should students be able to do with the content? When they learn this, what do we want? Okay, so the question is, you know, I always ask myself, when my kids leave my class, what do I want them to be able to do? You know, what does a student that leave my class look like when they engage with math? And that's a question that I would love for every facilitator to ask. What do you want your students to look like after they would have interacted with you? I have something that I say to myself, it's not just about math, but whomever come in my existence should experience something good. They should live a little bit better than how they met me and how they were. So when I go in front of a classroom, that is the same stance I take. My students ought to leave better than how I got them. And when I ask myself and tell myself that question, I am deliberate in how I decompose an objective. So I look at the content, what they should learn, the complexity, how deeply they should learn it, and the context, what should they be able to do with that content. So when you do that, we should be good. So Dominic, you've been a teacher for a while. You have seen the students come to you, and what are some of the high points of being a teacher when you engage those students? What are some of the things, and I'm talking your City and Guild students, when they come to you and you know, they don't really like the math, and after a term, you see a change. What would have happened in your class that could have caused such a change?
Well, one of the things that I really like to do, apart from decomposing the objectives and being very practical, I'm very intentional with my math language as well. Because one of the issues, and I noticed it from the report as well, is that the terminologies, once they're slightly different from what the students are used to, they're not able to answer the question. So I try to expose them as best as possible to the different terminologies that could mean the same thing. So for instance, we're looking at our conversion and, you know, we're looking at the voucher, discount, having something off, reduced. Using these different terminologies within the classroom also assists them that no matter what context or content the passage is written in, they're able to understand exactly what is required of them. Another thing that I like to do is the scaffolding as well, because we're talking about percentages. Percentages can also be written as a decimal. I remember that one of the issues that they had was multiplying their decimals. So by scaffolding and integrating these different things within my classroom, I'm able to see the change in them, and they're more confident when they leave the classroom and are better equipped and able to perform.
Awesome. So, I mean, we are trying to prepare you to do better. And you did an awesome job with them, but we know that if we engage them in different ways, they're going to just exceed our expectations. And that is what we want. Dominic shared some points that she would have been intentional. Intentional is important in engaging the students. So you can't be engaging students in a stage 3 curriculum and you yourself have never gone through an entire paper. And it don't have to be one time. When you are going to engage your stage 3 students, when you look at a particular content unit, percentages, it would be smart, intentional, to go and look at the percentage questions, to look at the context in which the percentage questions are being posed to the students. So, you know, it kind of gear how you engage them. For instance, you do know that the City and Guilds exam is a London-based exam. So there are a few words that they're not trolley. What's a trolley? You know, there are a few things that they probably would not be in their day-to-day conversation. But as educators, we're not expected to meet the students where they're at and leave them there. So yes, you start where they're at. Where a student, the constructivist theorists tell you, every child come to you with something, and that you want to build on, you know? So what they come with, you meet them there, and you take them up. When a child engages with content, it should never be the same thing that they came to the classroom with. They should know more than what they came with. All right? So with deliberate, intentional, practical ways in which we engage our students, we will reap better success come June 2026. Now, measurement and standard unit speaks to over a quarter of the candidates could work with questions involving milliliters, liters this year. But they were less confident working with centimeters and meters. That's kind of weird, isn't it? Because centimeters and meters would be
common.
Yes.
Everyday life.
Yes. So that means the skill to understand the conversion was not fully developed.
That's true.
So we need to work on that.
Because it's the same thing again. They are looking at one thing, and then the next thing they're viewing it as two separate entities.
The disconnect.
So it could be a case where, as educators, again, we're just not establishing the link.
Yeah.
You know?
We're teaching in isolation.
So much so. So we need to mend those gaps. We need to fix how we teach the various measurement units. Although some may be for liquid and some may be for distance, we need to show the students that there is some correlation. And if they learn that, it's easy to look at any such unit for any such units of measure. It says, however, over 3/4 of the candidates were able to work out the time in Hong Kong when they were given the time in Florida, which is good. So, you know, and these are skills. I mean, we have students who we plan to travel, because I know this is our global, international exam. So they can go all over the world with this, so they can understand that when they're in Hong Kong, what time to call Jamaica? There you go. So these are things that we can applaud you for, teachers. Reading and interpreting tables of figures. This is 309 in the stage 3 curriculum. Some aspect of this section saw a low performance. Over 3/4 of the candidates were able to give the correct responses when extracting information from tables, but only a third could extract information from a temperature gauge. Back to what we said. If we do not introduce the instruments to the students, they don't know how to use it well. So if we don't have the actual instrument, What can we do? Tell me what we can do, Denise.
Well, we can allow them to make the instruments.
Look at that. What else? So they can make it. What's another way we could do, Tariq?
I think that I have done, you can actually invite somebody who works with this and plan it as like, let's call it like a little field day presentation.
I was just going to ask you, what happened to field trip? We don't have any field trip anymore.
We do field trips too, yeah.
So we can't go to meteorologist place and go to some
We can
temperature
do that as well. So that way, not only do they get to see the instrument in use and find out what it's used for, they can also, it gives them the chance to experience it in the real world. A bus drive.
Real
and,
world.
you know, a lot of times we don't know the things that we do to shape our students, you know. Who's to tell? We carry one of our students and they see it being used and say, you know, I want to work in the meteorological
Look at that.
field, you know.
So
things that we can do as educators, we have a far-reaching effect on the minds that we mold. And the more effort we put in, the better the sculpture, so to speak.
Some of the schools, they might have a little insurance issues when it comes on to taking those trips, but every school does have a school nurse. The nurse is required to have a thermometer.
Never thought about
the
that.
Science department, they also use thermometers there, so we can also bring in the integration with the other subject areas, as well as showing, as Tariq said, how other persons in different professions use the instruments. And then we can have the students do different experiments. For instance, based on one of the reports, the freezing points, boiling points of water, all of those different things, I actually have my students do these experiments, take the temperatures, that way they can remember it. Because one of the things with City and Guilds, it's very practical.
Look at that.
One of the questions they usually ask, what is the temperature on a sunny day? These are the kind of things that they're required to know.
Practical things. Love it. Love it. You spoke about the integration again, you know, asking your science teacher, your nurse. So not only are we integrating subjects, but we're integrating the personnel within the school. This is excellent. Another thing, we talk about a temperature gauge. That may not be an everyday thing. They may see it from the trip, but let's say they did not go on a field trip because of the insurance thing and all of that. Another thing we could definitely do is introduce what is called a virtual tour. You know, take the schools through certain places that would use a temperature gauge. We don't necessarily use it as much, but there are persons within our society that uses it. And as Tariq says, it may pique the interest of our students to find a profession that uses this particular device. Awesome. So our last unit, which we're skipping, couple, but we're now at space, shape and space. And I have to talk about shape and space because every year it is a topic to talk about. Candidates generally did not identify the correct options, but there was a small improvement in candidates' performance on the 3 questions related to areas, circumference, and volume. Many candidates could not work out how many sides the polygon had. So that's a problem. And that's something that we need to look at. Be deliberate, be intentional. Half of the candidates were able to use Pythagoras' theorem to find the missing length, which is good, candidates, but we need to get more than half, of course. Candidates did not understand the idea of similarity and the effect of doubling the length of the sides of a cube, with many candidates thinking this doubles the volume. So, we are finished looking at the objectives, the units for stage 3. We would have looked at stage 1 and stage 2. We're going to look on what to focus on. And Tariq, go ahead. Please tell them what to focus on with some of the things.
We'll be focusing on diagnostic and formative assessments, which will identify areas that may need further teaching and learning for individual candidates. And we also want to ensure that the candidates have understanding of what a fraction is to enable them to progress through the stages and the different demands for calculations with fractions.
All right. So those are a few things that we want our teachers to focus on. You know, the diagnostic, the type of assessment that you give throughout the year. So what is your diagnostic for? Make sure you're using it correctly. Your formative assessment will inform you how to teach, how to adjust, to ensure that your students' needs are being met and you are adjusting your method, your pedagogical skills to meet the needs of your students. Please note that the learners in front of you, they are diverse, not one size fit all. That being said, it is important that you understand that you are paying attention to the learners that you have in your school. And when it comes time to choose a particular exam, to do well on a particular exam, you need to make sure that you are able to use your formative assessment and along with your diagnostic assessment to place the students correctly and to engage them correctly. Then you have, there's some key things that we want to hold on to as we continue to teach the students. Fractions. What else we want to hold on to, Denise?
Decimals.
Decimals. Dominic?
Integers.
Integers. So these are areas that we want to make sure that our students, that we're engaging them intentionally. We are ensuring that the teachers in the system, that's you, the powerhouse of the education system, the ones who lead, who chart a path for many students. We want to make sure that you're deliberate and intentional in engaging the students in such a way that the topics that the chief examiner's report identified were weak areas will be developed, will be better performed come June 2026. Candidates should be aware of different terms. The language, we all spoke about the language that should be used in the classroom. The language, we need to be deliberate in the math conversation. So we must talk math, right, Denise? Yes. We must talk about, all right, we're doing percentages. Where would you use percentage? Where would I use percentage? Why would I need to learn percentage? Tell me some places that I probably need to use percentage.
Well, you definitely need to do it if you're going to get a loan.
Look at that.
And we can connect that even to the credit thing you talked about earlier, where the students, everybody has a smartphone.
That's right.
And they borrow credit from Digital and Flow.
That is correct.
And they have to pay a percentage when they put back on their credit.
I didn't know that.
Yes, they do.
What you saying?
Yes. And sometimes they quarrel and them say, Digital thief my credit.
Oh.
But they did not factor that they borrowed $100, but they needed to pay back $120.
There is a huge percent. Is $120?
It's not really so much.
Okay.
I'm just saying. So they will put on a 120 credit and all of it disappears because they did not factor in that there was a percentage added on to what they would have borrowed.
There's a cost for the service of borrowing.
Yes.
Okay.
So, you know, just simple things like that, just to ensure that they understand that, look, it's not just in the classroom, but as you go out into the world, you need to use percentage when you're borrowing, when you're lending, because we don't want to lend for free, you know.
So you can be a lender too and
yes,
charge a percentage.
Not lending for free.
Right.
So it's something that they will encounter in their daily lives.
Awesome. So that little thing, that little credit, it is so profound because it now teaches them that if they go to the bank and borrow $1 million, clearly you're not going to pay back just $1 million. So these are life skills that we are introducing to our children from this stage once we engage them properly. Candidates should also understand simple fractions. Simple fractions, too often fractions is a struggle for many of our students. That means teachers, we need to be a little bit more intentional and deliberate in how we teach fraction. Fraction is a value. We have fractional amount when we look at money. Money represents whole and fraction. 10 cents, 50 cents, a fraction of $1,000 is less than $1,000. So fraction is real and we need to be deliberate. Equivalences is also an area that we saw they fell down in. So make the manipulatives when you don't have them. Borrow them, share them, come together, pool, have one, I don't know. Find ways in which to introduce manipulatives in your math class to ensure that the students are fully engaged well. Stage 2 focus, students should be aware of different terms like average, range. It shouldn't catch them flat-footed. They should know this. Candidates do not need to know mode. They need to know how to calculate the average mean. And most of the time, they are choosing mode as their correct response. So we need to be deliberate in letting them know what the mode is, but let them understand fully what the average is so that they don't make that mix-up. Candidates should know the perimeter and area. We know this too often they mix up. So be deliberate in how you teach that. The perimeter is the distance of the boundary of the shape. It is a linear unit, while the area is a space inside the shape. So 1 is the distance around the boundary, or sometimes I don't want to say around the boundary because I don't want them to think it's around it. It is the boundary. That is the perimeter. It is the boundary, the distance of the boundary of the shape, while the shape, the area, inside the shape. Good. And it is measured in squared units. So we have to be intentional in how we do that. For stage 3 students or teachers who are engaging students at the stage 3 level, candidates should understand the term mean, median, and mode. Deliberate, intentional, deliberate, I don't know if that statement is correct. Deliberately looking at individual mode, mean, median, for them to calculate each one. Mode is often wrongly chosen in terms of mean and range. So we need to fix that. Perimeter is a measurement of distance. Again, so stage 3 still struggles. So stage 1, 2, and 3 struggles with perimeter versus area. We can work on that. Candidates should also, at the stage 3 level, know how to calculate the volume. So not required for stage 1 and 2, but for stage 3, they ought to be intentionally engaged with volume. And you know that we cannot leave without just looking at the types of assessment that you use throughout the year. Now, at the beginning, this year, the assessment that was sent out in June, July of this year would have been our diagnostic. It helps for you to place them in the correct group. When you are in the schools now and you're engaging them, you do a series of formative assessment, which helps you to keep you on track and help to guide your instruction. And then what City and Guilds does at the end of their year is their summative, which assesses what they should know after engaging with the entire curriculum. All right, so pretty much we are pretty much tying up. Just to remind you, there are a few support materials that the City and Guilds Rep Office do afford you, and that would be syllabuses for all 3 stages, Smart Screen, which provide access to lesson plans and videos and activities. There are several videos on YouTube that you can use to help engage your students and to add to what you would have done in class. There's a mapping document to show you how City and Guilds maps closest or maps to CSEC. There are textbooks that are now available with examples that you can use to engage your students. And of course, there are specimen papers. You cannot have your students engaging with the content and never show them what that exam looks like, or allow them to pretty much assess themselves, self-assessment. How well did I do on this paper? How much of this assessment instrument I know? So those are things that we want you to pay attention to. And we thank you so very much. And these are questions I'm leaving you with. How are you engaging your students? Are the lessons activity rich? Are you being deliberate? Are you being intentional? And what are the struggles of your students? What are the struggles that you face? There is a WhatsApp group that most City and Guilds teachers should be a part of. When you are finding something difficult, when you need help, reach out in that WhatsApp group. Reach out with an email to the Rep Office, and we will try to assist you as best as possible in equipping you with the skill set you need to better able to engage your students. And of course, look for the high points in your class, look for the strengths and the best practices that you can share with other teachers. We're here for you. Thank you so very much. Have an excellent school year.
Now that you know
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope that the workshop was beneficial to everyone and that we did bring some clarity on all that the chief examiner's report spoke to, and that you're better able to engage your learners for this academic year, 2025-2026. Are there any questions at this time for us to pretty much shed any light on any area that you are not so clear? Please feel free.
Could you share the WhatsApp group link as well as how we can access the smart screen?
Okay, will do. Yes, Eva?
Sorry, it's a mistake.
Okay. Shanique, this is the end. We're pretty much doing a question and answer session.
So where can I get those textbooks?
What school are you at?
Main High School.
Okay, we will.
In St. Elizabeth.
All right, we will reach out to you as it pertains to getting copies of the textbook.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Jennifer.
Yes, I am actually at the Alpha Institute that is in Kingston.
Yeah.
And I would also like to know where can we access these practical books?
The textbooks?
Yes.
Okay. We will, this is Jennifer. Okay, Alpha Institute?
Yes.
All right. We will get that information to you.
Afternoon.
Afternoon.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Tonya?
All right. Tonya Oates from Greenpoint High School. Question for you is, if the students did the diagnostic test in grade 10, but they were not successful, how do we treat that now?
When you say not successful, what do you mean?
They did not pass. It was at a minimal.
So they would have been, you would have engaged them with the stage 1 curriculum from your data?
Basically.
Okay, so you want to give them you would like to give them, so would they have done the diagnostic at the end of grade 10 to see how well they managed the content from the stage 1?
Yes, they would.
All right. And the results would have proven that they are now able to do another stage 2 or 3?
Yes. So I want
All
to know if I could put them to another stage.
Most definitely. So you can engage them with another stage now, the one that fits what the data says about their capability. And of course, you as a teacher, you do have that autonomy to see the attitude of the child and the progress that they would have made to see how best to engage them with either stage 2 or 3.
Okay. Okay, thanks much.
You are most welcome.
Hello, good day.
Hi, Shanique.
I have 2 questions. Well, one is a request, one is a question. The request is, I'm at Scott Valley High School. We would like we would like more textbooks, and the reason for this is because we start our City and Guild curriculum from grade 9.
Okay.
So that our students can have enough time to matriculate to another level before leaving school.
Okay.
So because of that, we would need more textbooks for the students grade 9, 10, and 11.
Okay, go ahead.
another question, the question that I have now, what we do is to give them a diagnostic test when at the end of the school year. So for those in grade 8 that will be going into grade 9, they get it at the end of, like they get it in June of grade 8. Same for
Okay.
grade 9 and grade 10. So those going into grade 11, since they did a diagnostic test at the end of grade 10,
Yeah.
do they still have to do the test when they send it for them to do in October?
No. If they do the test at the end of grade 10, that is sufficient to let you know what stage you want to register them for the exam that they will sit in June.
Okay, so when they would send out that the schools to do the test on such date, we don't have to stick to that one for grade 11.
Well, for this year, the diagnostic was sent out earlier. So it was sent out in May for the students to sit the exam at the end of grade 10.
Oh, so they won't be getting it back in grade 11. Okay,
No.
okay, because last year we did that and then we thought that we got rid of that issue, and then when they got in grade 11, now they sent again.
Right.
So, okay.
So we'd have
Okay.
moved it to our earlier time.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So with regards to the textbooks now.
Okay, as in regards to the textbook, I am not 100% sure if you will be given more, and if, I don't know if you get enough for everyone, but what I can suggest to you, because there may be, depending on what is said from the Ministry of Education, you may need to have a set of books that you and your department members may be able to just use within the class as
Yes,
you
we
go
had
along.
planned that, but when we checked, because we were thinking that each teacher that teaches City and Guild would just get a set of, whether they're having grade 9, 10, 11, 15 book, that students would not take home the books.
Okay.
Unless, when we came up with a system where we numbered the books, so if they need to take home the book, we would know which student took which book, so that they would be accountable for that book should it not return.
Awesome. I love that. Accountability, having them know exactly what they need to do. All right.
So because we came up with that system, we said that we would just have each teacher get a set of books that would cover the number of students, at least 35 books. But
Okay.
we still don't have enough for that because we have 8 teachers.
All right. So I can give you a number. The number is 876.
Yes.
923, and this is for everyone who wants
923.
6505, and it goes all the way up to 9. The publishers of the book is Carlong Publishers.
Okay, so this is the number for Carlong?
Yes.
Okay.
So you can reach out to them and see how best the school can procure more books for your students. You
Okay.
can reach out to Siobhan Morgan.
Siobhan Morgan.
Eartha Levinson, exactly. Lewinson.
Repeat the name, Siobhan Morgan.
Yes.
And
or Eartha Lewinson.
Williamson.
Lewinson.
Oh, Arthur Lewin. Thank you so much.
Right. It is posted in the chat as well.
Okay. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
What's it?
Did you hear that, Daniel?
Okay. The cost for the book.
I'm not sure. I apologize for not having that, but you can reach out to the publishers and they will let you know.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dorothy.
If a student did not pass stage 1, can a child repeat the stage or have to move on to the other stage?
When you say pass, you mean like they sat the exam,
Yes,
the external exam,
right,
and they failed?
and fail, right.
All right. So there's no limitation on how many times you can sit the exam. But so I guess they can sit the exam again. They can. But we'd hope that they would be engaged differently so that it doesn't repeat itself.
So, Miss, would they get subsidy again for the same stage?
No. They would have to pay that. But any exam, whether the City and Guilds or regional exam, CSEC, once you've gotten the subsidy and you failed, you are now not entitled to another subsidy.
Miss, someone's hand is up.
Oh, Christina Harrison, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I am not certain if you can answer my question, but I know that with doing the City and Guilds curriculum, the mandate of the ministry is to increase the number of students we have sitting stage 3.
Correct.
Now, I have been having this discussion every year with our exam coordinator and principal, because I have been saying to him that, sir, based on the level of some of our students, they can sit the exam at grade 10. Some at the stage 2 level, so that at grade 11, they would already have stage 3 instead of stretching it all the way to 6th form. But the problem we're having is that we have to be waiting forever for the ministry to approve the grade 10 students so that they can get the subject paid for by the ministry rather than paying for it out of pocket. So I'm not certain if you can help me, but I would want to know if it is ever going to be a case where, because the curriculum for some of our students at a certain level can be covered from grade 10, can they automatically be a part of this listing every year when we're sending it to the ministry instead of waiting for that approval? Because it puts a little bit more stress on us as teachers if we could just complete the process once than doing it twice.
All right, so let me get this straight. You have a set of grade 10s who are capable of doing the stage 2 at the grade 10.
Yes.
And you move them into stage 3 by grade 11.
Right.
All right, so you are aware that the ministry will only give one subsidy. So if you're doing grade 10 and you get that subsidy from the ministry, you will not have, okay, you will not access, again, in stage, you won't access the subsidy in grade 11.
Miss, that's
Okay,
what we were
hold
told.
on, let me get it. Give me a minute, let me get some more information on this. Okay, all right, so if a child accesses the stage 2, they can also access the stage 3 subsidy. All right, so let me correct myself there. Now, your concern is that it takes so long for the approval of the subsidy for the grade 10 students that it's tedious on the school or the process.
Right, that's the problem, because even last year we made the very same attempt. We sent 2 of our grade 10 classes who would have been able to complete the exam at grade 10, and we had a 70-something pass, 70-something%, I think it was 77% pass rate. But we had to wait all the way until January when ministry is asking us for more students to be added to the list. So we're asking, can't it be just a general process? So if we know that or some of our students are competent at grade 10, we can just add them to the list instead of waiting on the approval come January to then be saying that we are preparing them towards exam, rather than, let us say, based on how they set the scope and sequence, the curriculum is spread for the 2 years, but we might have students who can cover it in 1 and sit the exam at grade 10. So currently I am still waiting on updates to say that I can allow my grade 10 students to register for the exam. which we don't want because we already sent through the grade 11s and we wanted to just send the grade 10s at the same time.
We will have to get some more information on this from the Ministry of Education. So bear with us until we get this sorted out as best as possible. But I hear what you're saying, and I do understand the concern with getting the process sorted early instead of waiting right to the appointed time. So we'll make note of it. And what school are you at?
I am at Brownstone High School.
Okay.
Region 3.
Christina Harris. All right, we will get some more information and reach out to you.
Thank you.
All right. You're most welcome. Any other questions?
What happened to those students who did not sit the exam in June?
Daniel,
Diagnostic test.
question?
What happened to those students who did not sit the diagnostic test in June?
You are free to give the
June.
test at this time for you to be better able to place the students in the prescribed class. So you can carry out that diagnostic now.
Okay.
Happy Grove?
Hello.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Good
afternoon. Some students are having a challenge with accessing their digital badge this year. I'm not sure what we were doing wrong. Can you shed some light on that, please?
All right. Did they give in a professional email address?
Yes, they would have.
They would have? All right.
Yes.
So what I'm going to ask you to do, you have an email for the rep office?
For the?
All right. What we'll do, this is Happy Grove students, right?
Right.
So we will check what could have caused such a problem and reach
Okay.
out to you.
All right, bless you.
This is Abdullah.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Just for some clarity, regarding the notices that you sent, the dual subsidy will be offered. Could you expand on that for me?
All three stages will receive, there will be a subsidy for stage 1, 2, and 3 for the students. And of course, they are now able to do a City and Guilds subject, math and CSET math.
Okay, so they will be subsidized for both math CSEC and math City and Guilds.
Correct.
Correct. All right, thank you.
All right, we'll take 2 more questions and then we will pretty much end this session today. Happy Grove, that's
Yes. Querying the smart screen, how do we access?
all right. So we will share the information with you as how to access the smart screen. Oh, Happy Grove, what is your name? I'm seeing your school, but not your name.
Audrey Perry Grant.
Audrey. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I'm seeing a question here from Mr. Snowball. You're saying, can the students be upgraded from a stage 1 to a stage 2 or 3? Yes, they can. What is the latest date for registration for students for June 26th? We will communicate it with it, and it will be in the City and Guilds group, WhatsApp group. If you look now, you will see it. So we will share that information. It's also right here.
Miss, the date is for the opening. I think he's asking for the latest, like what up to what time
And
after the 3rd.
we will send out a formal communication to you for you to know that end date. All right. We thank you so very much for tuning in with us for such a long session, but we are looking forward to seeing absolutely increased performance in our distinction and merit for June 2026 examination. We will continue to support you as you engage with any of the City and Guilds qualification. Have an excellent academic year.